exciting episode of your show, Sports Business with Veronica, where we try to dissect and understand the business opportunities that come with sport. With me today is the Premier Soccer League CEO, Mr. Rodwell Thabe. Isusu tavajaira tichingoti ndararoti kubhora kuti chitovanetsa, but I think this season it's going to be a different story. He's now the acting CEO who came in to replace Mr. Ken Ndebele, who is now with the Zimbabwe Football Association. Welcome to the show, Mr. Thabe.
Thank you, Veronica, and thank you for having me on your show. It's a pleasure, and I hope to come here as most frequently as possible.
And congratulations on your new role.
Thank you very much.
Mr. CEO. So now and looking at this PSL season, it's tentatively set to start on the 1st of March, which means that Mr. Thabe has to hit the ground running. Because apana time yacho. So maybe for a start, PSL, and they would want to understand who is Rodwell Thabe and how and when did you come to PSL?
Yes, like you said, Veronica, I'm here to serve football. I know people have been used to saying Rodi, and I'm still here to serve football in a different capacity though this time, but always available to play my part. And I am a passionate person, passionate about football, and I started working for the Premier Soccer League in 2012. So I've been around, I understand the systems quite well, and I grew up in the small mining town of Hwange. Very few people know that. Many people think I'm from somewhere else, but I'm proudly a Muboni from Hwange, as we say, and I can conversate in as much as 5 languages, including Nyanja, Nambia, English, Shona, Ndebele, so fluent in all of them. Yes. So I started working for the Premier Soccer League in 2013. But I must admit, when I came to football, it was on a skeptical basis. Football has always been associated sometimes with instability. Yes. I used to work for a company called ZPC. Very few people know that again. So I used to work for the electricity company as an engineer there. So coming to football was because I loved football. I had to leave an environment that I was so used to in Hwange, and I said, let me go to the capital city, let me serve the nation, and I've enjoyed my stay so far. So I'm quite conversant with the going-ons around the league because I've been here for some time, and I'm somebody who's multi-skilled, and I have a qualification in a Master of Business Administration. I am currently looking to pursue a doctorate degree, and I have several other qualifications in sport that include executive business marketing, qualifications with the UZ. I've also got qualifications in project management, and proudly to say so, I was one of a group of about 40 people chosen across Africa by SuperSport to undertake the new managers program, and I excelled in that as the best student. I was representing Zimbabwe with the 2 other people, that is Mr. Hara from Bulawayo and Mr. Elisha, and we enjoyed ourselves. And that taught me a lot, and I'm proud to say I'm a ripened football product.
Okay, that's a very rich CV that you carry with you. So maybe the fans out there should actually expect a lot of goodies to be coming from PSL this season. And Manje Magafila say with the predicament that we saw last season.
Well, like I said, very few people know my association in terms of where I come from, but I've always tried to manage everything professionally. When the team was relegated, it obviously hurts when you come from there, but there's never been a time when my heart is almost sidelined my professional repute. So Hwange are aware that even when they were in the league, it was on a professional basis with me. When we go home for Christmas, then it becomes on a friendly basis. So I managed that very well. I'm sure they'll bounce back. It has been the norm, but hopefully when they bounce back this time, it's for a longer period.
Okay, and maybe for others to understand, could you kindly maybe explain to us the role of PSL in football in Zimbabwe and your role as the CEO?
Yes. So the mandate of the Premier Soccer League, is very simple. we serve the interests of our members and stakeholders. So we aim to make football commercially attractive for our members. They must be profitable, they must be sustainable. We also aim to make football commercially attractive for our partners and our sponsors. So that's one. One other thing that we look at is, I must say, football is a unifying sport. So one of the mandates of the PSL is to ensure that we have fair play. And this football unifies us as we compete for the ultimate prize. That's number 2. Number 3, we want to ensure that as the Premier Soccer League, we provide the widest possible coverage for our members and stakeholders on all the media platforms. So this is our mandate as the Premier Soccer League. And just to look at some of the roles that I'll be undertaking as the acting CEO, I'm sure that you are aware that principally my mandate is to lead the secretariat.
Yes.
And work closely with the board, which comprises of the 18 teams and the emergency committee and various other partners that we need to look at, the media, sponsors, partners, so that the Premier Soccer League is able to achieve its goals. And underpinning that responsibility is the PSL strategic plan. There is nothing that I can do that is divergent from the strategic plan. And the strategic plan is governed by 4 main pillars. One of them is governance enhancement for the PSL, for the clubs. The second one is marketing. We need to strengthen our marketing systems. Then we say for this period, we need to concentrate on research and entrepreneurship, innovativeness as the league. And the 4th pillar being stakeholder engagement. We realized our engagement with stakeholders was weak. We need to improve on that. So that's basically the mandate of the Premier Soccer League. And my responsibility is to lead us towards the strategic plan and develop and manage relationships with business partners that enhance and support the vision of the Premier Soccer League.
Okay. Later in the conversation, we will come back to the 4 pillars. So maybe for now, if you could give us maybe a brief review of your 2024 PSL season, and in conclusion, you give us an insight as to whether you guys realized a profit or you ran a loss.
Okay, so as the Premier Soccer League 2024 was quite an exciting year for us. First of all, I'll refer to the number of matches that we undertook, because our core business is to provide an elite competition platform for our members.
Yes.
So this is what we look at first, and we did provide the competition platform. If I look at the league matches, we unfortunately had 1 match that did not complete. That should have been Chegutu Pirates and Dynamos FC, that was abandoned due to crowd trouble. In the Chibuku Super Cup, which is also our flagship tournament, we had 1 match which was also abandoned. It was between Simba Bora and Highlanders FC. And those matches were resolved via a disciplinary hearing, which is what we don't want to see as the Premier Soccer League.
Yes.
So these are some of the key takeouts from the 2024 season, to say this should not be on our playlist. And looking at the season as a whole, I think our clubs fared pretty well. The Premier Soccer League, as you said, from a business perspective, did not endure any losses.
Yes.
And I must really emphasize that I'm grateful to our partners,
yes,
our principal sponsors, Delta Beverages. They've been with us through thick and thin. I'm grateful to partners that support the league. Football is not easy. You have individual players and individual businessmen looking at the clubs. You have companies, corporates coming in to chip in. And you have the community supporting football as a whole. Look at teams like Chegutu Pirates. As they were struggling, the community was coming behind them. And I believe that all the 18 teams did manage to balance out their financials. And for 2025, I think we're looking at improving on that. But 2024 as a whole was quite beneficial to everyone, except say for those 2 games that did not complete.
Okay. And as for 2025, you mentioned earlier on that this is not going to be a usual season. What's going to be different now?
So, at the beginning of this year, well, to be precise, in the past 2 weeks,
yes,
we have been undergoing a rigorous introspection as the league. So far, we've had 2 workshops. Number 1, we had a workshop on sponsorship and marketing that was conducted by FIFA. We are grateful to that, through ZIFA. The clubs participated over 2 days. They learned valuable lessons. Then, on a great note, as the Premier Soccer League, we held our annual a review workshop and our planning workshop for the 2025 season. And our main objective for that workshop was to, understand ourselves as the Premier Soccer League, understand the problems that the clubs have, and be able to work through an agenda process for 2025 that solves us. So what will make 2025 are different? We have had the challenges that are there, and now our main focus for 2025 is, number one, to make football, attractive from a corporate perspective for all our members, and to widen our revenue streams. That's number one that we are looking at. Number two, I think as you saw at the beginning of this year, we awarded our Kasolaga Premier Soccer League Fan of the Year with a prize. We are going to have more initiatives on that platform. So our focus this year, being on our members, is more so on the fan. So we are putting a mantra to say, putting the fan first. How can we respond to the changes in the operating environment in the country? And how can we make football, an experience? A football match must be an experience in my view. It mustn't just be about getting to a match, getting the scoreline and going out. So what is going to be different in 2025 is that we are trying to look at, three main pillars. Number one is safety. Number two is security. And number three is service. So through the service, we are trying to ensure that our fans get the ultimate experience in a safe and secure environment. We are trying to get the families back, and that includes us improving on our fan engagement strategies and having, new innovative ticketing solutions. Because sometimes for some people, the whole process of getting to a football match is tedious or cumbersome or difficult. We want to make that easy. Have greater, more beneficial ticketing systems, more accountability. So for 2025, this is principally that what we're looking at. We don't want to put up a whole list of things that we will not be able to achieve in a smart way. So we are looking at widening the revenue base and corporate sponsorships for our clubs and for the league. And then we are looking at to engage the fan, putting the fan first. So more will be done on our digital platforms, more will be done physically, engagement in the community. And besides that, we have discovered that we need to engage more with our stakeholders, the media included. We need to get your opinion, we need to implement that and create a harmonious relationship for the Premier Soccer League. So these are the key things to look out for in 2025. Stakeholder engagement, fan management and initiatives, and getting more sponsors on board for the league.
Okay. And there has always been talk about the issue of e-ticketing system and point-of-sale machines, with fans and other stakeholders requesting that it's actually easier for them to swipe their way into the stadiums. How far have you gone in trying to address that?
Okay, so currently we do have point-of-sale entry mechanisms at our stadiums. I think what has been letting us down, and I'll also explain briefly about the e-ticketing system. We have held a tender for the e-ticketing system in the past few years. And we actually once awarded this tender to an external company. Internally in Zimbabwe, we could not find one. We sought permission to award the tender to an external company. Before we fully awarded the tender, we went through a process of a trial process. We did matches in Zvishavane, we did a few matches in Harare, and a few matches in Bulawayo. The outcome, or the resultant outcome of those trial matches, were deemed that at that time, the level of internet and data penetration in the country was so low. You would get to a stadium, buying the ticket was easy. We even once engaged another local company that did that. Buying the ticket was easy. Getting to the verification part was a challenge. Internet would either go down, we did not have fiber systems in the stadiums. If the fiber systems were coming in, they were not dedicated, they were shared. So internet would intermittently go down and up. And that, in our opinion, made us think twice. Why? Because we wanted to avoid the situation that happened one time with the national team at the National Sports Stadium, where we lost one fan due to a stampede. And primarily, I think the results, or the investigative result of that stampede, it was caused by a failure of the ticketing system. There was a glitch, and in football, once you have a 5-second glitch, it is chaos. So that made us pause and think. But what has changed now is, we now have so many options, Veronica. We have Starlink, we have dedicated systems that can be run into the stadiums. So we want to try this thing once again. We tried it in the past. It was not so successful. Yes, we ran the matches, but on an evaluation process, you would see and say, this is a huge risk. But I think in 2025, this is something that we have to adopt without fail. because e-ticketing gives so much convenience to our fans. We can also plan, even in terms of the number of security procedures, entry gates. We already plan from a pre-sale perspective. And in 2025, we are looking to dive into the swimming pool again, and hopefully this time swim right across to the other end.
Okay. And I've noticed that even the tickets that we use to get into the stadium, rakafanana from match day 1 up to the rest of the season. Why is that so? Akufanele kunge kune tickets ekuthi this is Highlanders versus Dynamos, this is FC Platinum versus Triangle, this is what?
It's a possible thing, but what it comes with is it was done in this way because of a cost based perspective. Why I'm saying so is you do understand that if I'm going to print a ticket match, specific ticket match between Dynamos and ZPC Kariba with the date, with the labeling, with a different color, which looks nice, it means I have to, because I have no pre-sales, it means I have to plan for the maximum safe capacity of the stadium. Rufaro will have a capacity of, let's say, 23,000. If I recalculate it, because that is not the maximum safe capacity, if I recalculate it according to the CAF and FIFA standards and metrics, it maybe will result to around 20,000 as the maximum safe capacity. It means I have to be prepared on match day with 20,000 tickets. And then on that match, I have 4,000 people coming in. It means I have 16,000 tickets, which I can no longer use in any other game. And the cost of that ticket, because it's not a ticket that is done in Barem, Sika or wherever, it's a ticket that has high security features. It's actually made of perforated material, light embossing material. It has about 4 security measures, which is not cheap. So what it means is we can do that, but we run the risk of overrunning internal stock of tickets that we cannot then use. So at the moment, unfortunately, we are only confined to that procedure where the general access ticket is the same, the VIP and the VVIP have different color codes, but crucially, they are serial numbered differently. So we have a stock management system that tracks those serial numbers with the help of clubs to know that at this match we have dispersed these serial numbers. This is what has been bought, this is what we have in stock. So it's all about cost, but in terms of implementing the different types of tickets, it's easy. But we have to then contextualize it to the situation that we have in this country.
Okay.
Yes.
And at this time where we are trying to lure more numbers to come and attend these matches, do you feel that $3 is a fair charge? Because there's also been calls that why don't we reduce the charges, the gate entry charges maybe to $1 so that more numbers can then come, and once they come, then with time, most of them mjikwita. How do you feel about that?
Okay, so first of all, just to clarify, $3 is the general price ticket for general access, which is rest of ground.
Yes.
There have been concerns about that pricing to say maybe it's a bit steep. Yes. Why don't we reduce it? But I can assure you that according to our rules and regulations, clubs, individual clubs, may apply for a downward review.
Okay.
So I had 1 year, I think it was 2019, where matches in ZPC Kariba the entire season were costing $2. That's because they permanently applied for a downward review. So it's up to the clubs. We stand and we consider the fan and we advise. But sometimes even when you see ticket price increases, if there's a Dynamos and Caps United match, that increase has been requested from the home team. So we need to also make considerations, the costs. Clubs need to break even.
Yes.
But coming back to the $3 ticket, we need to be a bit scientific about it.
Yes.
I can agree with you, but at the same time, remember I said one of the pillars of our strategic plan involves the research and innovativeness. And part of our research this year is to find out that does the variance of a ticket price to $1 really change? We did one experiment one time where it should have been a Chibuku Cup final, and we reduced the ticket price to $1.
Yes.
The number of fans that came in were consequently more or less the same as those that come in for both clubs on a $3 ticket. So the question arose from a scientific point of view in Zimbabwe, does the price really vary the attendance? I would like to believe so. Common sense tells you that if you make a ticket $1, you're going to get in more fans. But I think we need to do it scientifically. This season, get some matches, increase the sample size from one.
Yes.
Because maybe that one match, it was an issue of awareness.
Yes.
People did not know. So we'll try that, but we need to then have willing clubs. Because clubs will tell you, if you take the ticket price to $1, I can't break even. But I'm sure we have some clubs that may want to take it to $2, $1. We'll allow them. Then take the sample size and be able to prove. If it's proven, we go back to the bigger clubs that normally want $3 and say, listen, from a scientific point of view, these are the changes and benefits that you can have. My mandate or my main aim is to fill the stadiums. So taking the ticket to $1 is something that I'll do without hesitation, but it all lies in the hands of the clubs and the board.
Okay. And there's also been that issue, especially in Harare Derby.
Yeah.
Whereby Trukuti Suso, the stadium was filled to capacity. Dynamos got maybe 60,000 from gate takings, but also on 20,000 in their hands. That we see the issue of breaking even here. What percentage do you take as PSL? Is there also a percentage that goes to ZIFA, and which are the other stakeholders that do get something from those?
Okay, so it's a good thing, and it will provide clearness on this issue. Once the match day revenue is collected, we have what we call statutory levies. So part of the statutory levies include a 6% on gross to the Sports and Recreation Commission. It includes another 6% on gross again, not on what has been left, on the initial gross that goes to ZIFA. Then stadium rentals, normally they chew up 15 to 20% of gross again. So we're not going back on the figure that is resulted from the other deductions. We're still looking at gross. So these are the three major factors that take from gross. After deductions from gross, PSL issues a levy that it takes from the clubs. But the clubs have never had a problem with that. When you hear them talking about levies and reduction, it has mainly been a question about the other stakeholders, which is something I do not want to really get into. Yes. But with the PSL, what we then do is, remember the PSL are the clubs. Yes. So this levy that we take from them is for the development of the league and the clubs. We held a workshop in Bulawayo. Yes. This is where the levy starts working. We have board meetings. We have capacitation meetings that we hold for our members. I think last year alone, we held a record number of workshops. If I'm not mistaken, it should have been 6 to 7 workshops that we held. So this is where the levy that we take in is plowed back into the clubs. So the question really among the clubs has been, these other levies, statutory as they may be, how are they coming back into football? So it's something that I don't want to come into because I don't want to ruffle the feathers of the levy takers. But these are the levies that come through. And then from there, after these levies are deducted, ZIFA, SRC, stadium hire, if you don't own the stadium, PSL, which has been explained in detail, you then start paying what we call match day expenses. And one of the highest drivers of match day expenses evolve around referees. Yes. They evolve around police, ZRP, private security. Because remember, for a big derby match, you need a contingent of no less than 150 police officers. And that's a huge cost. Yes. The cost is based on rank and is staggered. You need private security. Yes. You need to pay the referees, which is always a fixed amount. Yes. And then you need to pay the cashiers and all other match day service providers, ambulances, etc., etc. So we have a system that we implement with the clubs. They understand. You know, sometimes it comes out in the press, and I understand this. You know, the press has a right to be concerned when a club crosses, let's say, 100,000 and supposedly takes home 40,000. Where did the other money go? It's right. But, you know, the clubs themselves, we sit with them and we are reading in the press and we are saying, okay, but me and you are clear on this, because it's a clear deduction process that is not done by PSL. It is done under the supervision of PSL with the clubs, club treasurer, club administrator. So most of the time, if you were to ask the clubs, they will tell you they know exactly where that money has gone. Whether they are happy or not, whether it has gone there, I'm sure they are not happy. Yes, I'm sure they are not happy. And what we can do is proactively in 2025, we may need to reduce costs in some of these stakeholders. How do we do that? For example, you come to a big club, it must train its marshals. We help them to train the marshals. So if we approach the police officers and say, instead of 150 officers, we now have our own 200 marshals who are branded, who are trained by you, the police, by the PSL. Can you then consequently reduce the number of officers that come from the police? I don't see the police saying no. But the police will ask us, for us to reduce numbers, what do you have to complement our reduction? And the good thing about club marshals, most of them are on a volunteer basis. So it's up to the clubs to then strengthen their mechanisms, get volunteers on board, and then everything else will be. But I'm sure this thing has been talked about for long, and I understand the impacts of it. And at least I've given you a clear picture on how it goes. It's not like that money has disappeared into the cloud.
And then there is also issuing membership cards. We want to understand Chichi Nomboyat's membership card, and how does one get that membership card?
Okay, so we are referring to what we call the PSL privilege cards. So it is the mandate of the PSL and the responsibility of the PSL to ensure that its members and stakeholders, which include the media, etc., and partners and sponsors, have access to these matches depending on the agreement with these stakeholders. So we principally accredit each year. We've started this process now. We accredit the club. The clubs have a certain limit. Each club presently at the moment has 25 cards that they are given. So this is a decision that is not made by the secretariat. It's a board decision to say each club get 25 allocations for their staff, for their board members, etc. We then look at the media houses that we work with, and we accredit them according to the size and the needs of the media house. We look at sponsors and stakeholders. And then I know the question on your mind might be, okay, what about legends? There's been this issue of saying legends, anama cards. Right. We sit at these board meetings, and I'll be able to confirm to you that 100% of the decisions that we implement, things that you saw me implement on the ground, that you saw the CEO and everyone else, are decided at board level. We present those cases. We presented a case to the board to say, can we adopt a system where we can recognize and accredit our legends? It was then agreed, and I think in 2025 you'll see it. It was spoken about at our workshop to say we are going to give each club an allocation to recognize and identify its own legends. Remember, a legend at Ngezi Platinum and the level at which they are may not be the same as a legend at Dynamos. So we say let's give the responsibility to the clubs to identify their legends this year, give us the names, but we have to be cognizant of the numbers. Because even if I were to ask you now, Veronica, and say, let's look at national legends. If you can name national legends and you see yourself counting fingers on your hands and the toes on your feet, and you need another paper, I'm sure we've overlapped into what we call former players than legends. Legends are undisputable. We know them. I know them. You know them. They don't create a debate. But the problem that we've had is that there's been a mixture of legends and former players. Former players coming to the gate to say, I'm a legend, I need free entry. So this is what we need to distinguish. And we've said we may not know all the legends. As the PSL, we will accredit some, and we did so last year, that we recognize from a PSL and national perspective. But the clubs also need to come to the party and say, in Green Fuel, we were in Division 1. There is this guy. This is his profile. He's in our Hall of Fame. We are according him, or we're applying for you to accord him legendary status. Because the PSL may not be away in some centers. So all these stakeholders will be covered. But like I said, any accreditation process across the world has its limits. I have my limits according to the numbers that I can give. I'm sure if I were to ask a sports business with Veronica how many accreditations you have, I would receive a number that would shock me, which is fair because you need to cover us, but I need to be cognizant of what the numbers that we need to limit and be able to accommodate. But every stakeholder will be covered. It's only the process and due process. And I think some of the problems that we have with some of our stakeholders is football in Zimbabwe I walk up to the stadium.
Yes.
I just drive in and then I present myself. I've not been, to Spain, but I believe even a legend of Barcelona like Lionel Messi does not simply walk into the new camp. He already notifies so that they expect him, so that they open the gates for him and salute him as a legend. So I think it also has to be an approach change from us, not only the legends, from all stakeholders across those who feel they are privileged to have cards. They only need to notify us to say, okay, we have a guest who's coming in, and then we look at the profile and approve. They find their parking done and they come in. But if they just walk up to the stadium, it's difficult. They might find their coffee cold, and then the Premier Soccer League is playing. So it's an issue of communication.
And then there's also issue of sponsorship. Your sponsorship deal with Delta is the major sponsor. So I wanted to find out, are you only confined to Delta, or they are open to having you guys finding complementary sponsors to see your season through?
It's not a closed sponsorship. You take the words right out of my mouth, because just a few days ago, I was actually discussing with our principal partner at Delta, which is the marketing director. And he was saying, Rodwell, how is your sponsorship spectrum looking across? If you guys got any other partners? And the agreement that has been there with Delta is that we are allowed to find other partners. Obviously we cannot find partners that are in a competing category range as in Delta Beverages. But if we look at other product ranges, be it the banking sector, be it anything else, Delta have actually said to us, if you find other partners, we'll be so happy, because football is for everyone. This is what they've said. So our partnership with Delta is not closed. We are seeking sponsors, because I know you might say, okay, it's open, Rodwell. We are the sponsors. We are proactively seeking sponsors. But we must understand that football has come from the COVID period. Companies have come from the COVID period. When we were still in 2012, 2013, we're running a whole range of company-sponsored spectrums, cups, tournaments. I was there during that period. But now we have an opportunity. COVID has come and gone. The companies are recovering. Some of them not so much. If you read around the press, they are closing shops. These are rumors, blah, blah, blah. But the operating environment has not been easy. But we are proactively searching for a sponsor. And I'm confident that in 2025, we'll hit our codes are just, in the past, have had near misses. But I'm sure that in 2025, we must be able to get sponsors that will complement what is coming from Delta Beverages. And the good thing is, Delta Beverages are not that jealous wife. They are open to a polygamous relationship. And there's no better thing that a man would want sometimes, I suppose, if it's actually approved from the principal wife. So they've given us the go-ahead. Not now. They've always given us the go-ahead. Even our contract is open, and it says if you find other sponsors, just advise us so that we are aware. We see that there's no conflict of interest.
Okay. Yes. And last season, we saw ZTN Prime covered most of the PSL matches. But then there is a time here, ZBC, then they came Sly Media. We did not understand what was really taking place. So maybe if you can enlighten us with Chicha Kaitika, and this season 2025, my rights to broadcast these matches live are kunan.
The PSL operates what we call a multi-broadcaster platform. We learned our lessons between 2012 and 2017 when we had one broadcaster. And the broadcaster, we enjoyed the relationship so much that sometimes we miss them, but not so much because we have other partners now. But what happened is, even during that relationship with one broadcaster, we used to have 2 to 3 matches a week being broadcast. And like I said, one of the biggest mandates that we have as the league is to ensure that our stakeholders and our partners have the widest possible media coverage. Broadcasting rights is a key issue, a contentious issue. Many questions can be asked around the partners we have, what is coming through. But for me, I can confidently let you know that this is a multi-broadcaster platform. Now, we were in partnership with ZPC, but we were in discussions, with ZTN. A partnership that was ongoing for so many years. In the background, we had discussions also with other partners. I can tell you that we had discussions with ZBC, we had discussions with 3K TV, just to mention a few, about the possibility. Nothing was struck or agreed on, but because our platform allows us to seek several broadcasters, and it's not a secret, even in the contract with ZTN, it clearly states that we may have. So once we found another partner in ZBC, we simply went to ZTN, advised them. And I must applaud, the sport department at ZBC and ZTN, the head of sports, because these are the people we sit with on the table. Once you have two broadcasting partners, the fight now starts to say who takes what and how. The relationship was seamless. We would sit in a meeting that is scheduled for 1 hour, would be done in 10 minutes. Because I'll say, let's discuss gentlemen. You cannot have the sweetest part of the cake alone. Take a bite, let the other guy take a bite. And from the time when we had two partners, ZTN and ZBC, the relationship worked flawlessly. So for this season, really nothing has changed in terms of the documents that I hold. It's an open multi-broadcaster platform. Should there be a broadcaster that wishes to take exclusive rights, I think you understand that exclusive rights come with a hefty price. Can the broadcasters afford it? I'm not too sure. But at the moment, we've made sure that the cake is big enough for everyone to share. So come 2025, we still negotiate with all the broadcasters, unless one acquires exclusive rights, which at the moment we don't have on the platform. It means it needs to be a new board resolution that authorizes such. But our partnerships have given us enough exposure. There is room for improvement, especially on the revenue side. Advertising rights and all, there is room for improvements. But in terms of the quality of productions, we are happy.
Okay. And now back to the 4 pillars that you mentioned earlier on. I want to look at issues of branding and marketing for PSL. Do you feel that you guys are doing enough? And also looking at their fans and stakeholders, who follow our border. We also have school-going kids. We have Tuvanatweku Primary, we have even the ECD. You want to catch them young. Do you have any structures or any programs in place so that you take the game from the stadiums maybe to the schools and the communities?
It's an opportunity, like you say, Veronica. Remember, we do have our strengths and our weaknesses, but we also have the opportunities that we look forward to. And one of them is the one that you have mentioned. We need to improve on our CSR initiatives. We need to improve on taking the game out there, outside of the stadiums, to the community. Our marketing strategies have been solid, but I must admit that some of the support that is supposed to come from our member clubs has not been adequate. But this will be corrected through the club licensing regulations. Remember, football is no longer football anymore. Licenses are issued on the basis of a certain set of criteria. So whilst much of the hype would go on around between the sponsors and the league itself, we were receiving very little from some of the clubs. But I must say, there are clubs that I must commend that are out there. You have seen them, they are wow, you have read about them, you go on digital media now, you go on the newspaper, on radio, they are there, on television. So it's a big thumbs up. But we are only as strong as our weakest link. So we need to then push the 1, 2, or 3 members that are still lacking in this aspect. And I believe as a unit, we'll be able to strengthen the overall strategy that we have to ensure that the league is out there, the league is known. So efforts have been done in the past, but I think we need to just complement what is already the foundation that has been laid to do more.
And so generally we agree that in this digital era, social media also does a lot in terms of marketing.
Yes, definitely. The slightest of things matter digitally. It gets you talking. Just yesterday, I don't know whether it's an official log table that I saw a purported log table of the digital strengths of our clubs. And that was initiated by one club. And, it got people talking the whole day. So it's the small things that matter. These days, digital media gives you the lowest cost per reach. You want to go traditional, it's fine. But the biggest strength that anyone has now is digital. It's like everyone has become a media person. They're able to log in, able to post. So we encourage our clubs to at least have a structured plan. You know, the approach digitally should not just be random.
Yes.
It should be structured. You should know what you want to post on Monday, on Tuesday, right up to Friday and the end of the season. It can't just be, okay, we've played a match, full-time results and all. So we need to keep engaging our fans. And I think you agree with me that the digital aspect is the best. Yes, other methods are powerful, but digital it's got a low cost per reach, which doesn't really need a huge budget, because most of the time, when it comes to marketing or when it comes to budgets, the first thing to suffer in any organization usually is the marketing aspect. Why? Because the return on investment is not really, sometimes companies want to, they want to see that we've invested in a player and he scored 19 goals. It's tangible. You can see it. Or we've won the league. Marketing, the results are implied. Oh, okay, we had high attendances. Okay, maybe because we did this. So because it's implied, sometimes it suffers first, which should not be the case. So we encourage clubs to, when the budgets become tight, let's go digital. Some people are doing it very, very well. But digital, you must be cognizant of your fans. Don't take another club's strategy, make it yours. They have a different set of fans. Study your fans, know what they want, know the age groups, the demographics. Are they mind workers? Give them something relevant to them. Yes.
Something that they can relate to.
Definitely. And then the engagement starts, the interest starts, and revenue starts coming in.
Okay. And then as we wind up, I've also noted that when we look at corporates, who are the sponsors that we are looking for almost on everyday basis, they now prefer to work with my artists as their brand ambassadors. They give endorsements to my artists. It seems like there is the new tendency of shunning my players. What do you think could be the reasons for that?
Image and brand management. Our players take some of these things for granted. Artists, on the other hand, are proactively engaging management teams to manage their profiles. I'll give you an example where you may have a very popular football player, search for him on Facebook, whatever, you can't see him, but he's there with another name, maybe XYZ, a star. But a proper manager will be able to lay out the brand and say, don't use moniker names, use direct names. This is how we manage the content. So I think the first thing is that brand management of the personal players. Number two, I think some of it it's to do with disciplinary issues. Once you get yourself out there with a clean image, companies will start running after you. They must not be on a seesaw and say, what is he going to do next? It must be clear that this athlete is free from drugs, this athlete is free from any negativity. So I would say the musicians have taken a proactive step. Football is a mass participation sport. Everyone loves football. The companies love football. But it's now up to the footballers to take advantage of this and be able to manage their brands. Get a manager, even if, you can find volunteer managers. Because there are people who love these players and who are so loyal to them and are in this digital space. They can start this thing when the pages start rising, when the social presence. Take, for example, some of our stars like Kama Billiard. It's a brand that you can see out there. On a daily basis, there's engagement, clean engagement. So I encourage our footballers to be able to know, if you cannot get a management partner to manage these social profiles, at least do it yourself, but do it the right way.
Okay. And lastly, issue equity. There's been a match abandonment, or there's been a situation at certain matches, match announced opera, and everyone is actually waiting for the PSL to give a verdict. And Kutivazi has been awarded the 3 points. And it seems sometimes panels time up to an extent they lose patience and stuff. What's the procedure? And it should be done, the decision should be done within a range of how many days?
It's not necessarily on the range of days. What we say is that the decision must be issued in for any court process or any disciplinary process. Time is of the essence. So we want to ensure that it's done in the fastest possible time. Now, one of the biggest strengths of the PSL is that its judiciary bodies are independent. So at any time, if there's a disciplinary process, never ever imagine that Rodwell will be able to pick up a phone and say, Chairman, Ningiwe DC, we need this to be, done by tomorrow. I'll simply say this must be done time consciously in the fastest possible time. The processes that they undertake are independent. We respect them. We do not intervene. So sometimes, just like any other court processes, it's not a hearing that may sit at once. Actually, some hearings sit twice, thrice, because they need to hear the facts. They'll hear the facts of this matter, they'll cross-examine witnesses, more questions will come up, they may need to call referees again, because something has come up, they call the referees, they cross-examine again. So the process sometimes may be lengthy. Sometimes a verdict may be issued within a week.
Yes.
Sometimes it may take 2 weeks. But what's important is for the PSL to demand that timelines be adhered to. And that is, in any disciplinary process, it must not take too long.
Well, guys, that was quite a lengthy discussion with the Premier Soccer League CEO, Mr. Rodwell Thabe. And thank you so much, Mr. Thabe, for a warm welcome at your new office as the CEO. And I think, just like you highlighted, this is going to be a thrilling 2025 season. Fans should be expecting a lot more than what they've been getting in the previous seasons. So it's up to you guys. We are ground. This is going to be a totally different season. Thank you so much from the crew behind the scenes. Ciao.